The movie begins with a man named Thong, who is being chased by a group of horsemen with sharp weapons slung over their shoulders. It is still not clear why Thong is being chased. What is clear is that Thong always smiles even though she is in danger. The film then moves on to Thong's childhood, where almost every day she was chased by a group of bullies led by Wunchin. Even though Thong had tried to run away, the bullies continued to attack him and even threw oranges at Thong. After getting bullied, Thong went to a Muay Thai martial arts school in his village. At that time, the name was not Muay Thai but Muay Boran. It just so happened that the college coach was Thong's own uncle. Thong confidently asked his uncle to teach him self-defense, but the uncle refused because at that time small children were not allowed to practice martial arts for fear of being abused. The next day when Thong wanted to play, suddenly Wunchin and his friends immediately threw oranges at Thong again. Since then, Thong decided to train alone. Until one day, Thong was approached by them to bully him again. But then Thong managed to beat them. Until Thong accidentally injures Wunchin. It turns out that Wunchin's grudge continues until they grow up. Scene mature Thong being chased by Wunchin group. Lucky Thong managed to hide in a forest, but when in the forest, Thong turned things around by beating them one by one. Because he lost, Wunchin complained to his father, who was the richest man in the village. But the father didn't like that Wunchin kept chasing Thong and asked him to stop doing that. Then the film moves on to Thong, who decides to leave her village and travels to another village. In the village that Thong visited, he saw people fighting for bets. Thong, who needed money, finally joined the fight in the village. Amazingly, Thong always wins the fight and makes his master get a lot of money. Day after day he always fights, but no one can beat him. Of course, it made his master very proud of Thong, until one day there was a shepherd who dared to bet very much money to fight against Thong. His master, who believed in Thong's ability, of course accepted the offer until the battle took place. But unfortunately in this fight Thong lost. So he fell into the river and was unconscious. The people who had been cheering just left him, including his master, who was disappointed with him for losing. Luckily, there was a drunk man who wanted to help him. Thong felt ashamed that he had disappointed all his supporters, including his master Thong. The drunk later said that Thong couldn't control her emotions and seemed like she was just playing with the punches. In other words, he has not really mastered the basic techniques of real martial arts. He suggests that Thong find the right Silat teacher to learn it. The suggestion from the drunkard opened Thong's eyes that there are still many out there who are tougher than her. Thong then decided to leave his village, wandering looking for a teacher to deepen his martial arts knowledge. Until he arrived at a village. There he saw a hermitage where people practiced Pencak Silat. Enthusiastically, Thong then mingle in the ranks, join in the practice without asking the teacher's permission first. This Muay Thai teacher named Ruhang, who had never seen Thong's face before, asked her to introduce herself and what was the reason for joining the practice without permission. Thong then introduced herself, after which she expressed her desire to train. He begs master to accept him as a student in the martial arts school. Ruhang saw Thong's seriousness radiating from her face. Ruhang finally accepted her as a student. The next day, Thong started practicing with the other students. In training, master tests Thong's skills by having him fight against one of the toughest students named Amasa. In that fight, Thong was able to beat Amasa in no time. But when Thongdi was off guard, Amasa suddenly attacked Thongda from behind. And it was from here that the master uttered a pearl of wisdom to Thong, namely, "Hi, remember, make your opponent faint, because your opponent will never feel sorry for you. Remember that." When Thong continued his fight, one of Wenchin's friends who happened to be in the village accidentally saw Thong. He immediately returned to his village to tell Wenchin. The next day, Wenchin and his entourage came. This time, Wenchin brought a bodyguard skilled in swordsmanship. Let's call him Heeg. Wenchin and Heeg tell the martial arts expert that they are looking for a black man named Thongdi. Here, Master refuses to tell where Thongdi is, and challenges her instead.
Right.
Heeg also threatened his teacher. If the teacher messes up, then he will burn down his village. Not only that, Wenchin also wanted to forcefully marry his teacher's daughter. When things got tense, Thongdi came accompanied by her teacher's daughter, Ellie. He decided to turn himself in and asked Amasa to look after Ellie. When Thong was taken away Wenchin, suddenly Heeg ordered his men to burn all the houses in the village. It also made the martial arts students put up a fight, as well as the Thongdi. He defeats Wenchin, after which he defeats Heeg's men. Luckily, finally Wenchin and his group chose to retreat. After that incident, Thongdi, who didn't want the residents to be in danger because of him, asked the teacher for permission to leave the village. With heavy feelings in the end, the teacher and all the residents let Thongdi leave the village. But when in the middle of the road, it turned out that Thongdi was followed by a young man who wanted to accompany him. The young man named Punkit. Punkit really wants to be like Thongdi, who has great martial arts. At first Thongdi refused and told Punkit to return, but Punkit still wanted to come with him. Until finally, Thongdi and Punkit found a new village. Thongdi and Punkit, who need money to eat, they approach a girl named Lingling. Thongdi begs Lingling to take her to the show they are going to do. That night, Lingling took them to her father. Thongdi asked permission from Lingling's father to join her show. But unfortunately, Lingling's father is not willing because if Thongdi fails, then the shows they often do will be empty of visitors. But when the stage was in progress, it turned out that Thongdi was disguised as an opponent on the stage. Thongdi was lucky to be able to run the stage very well, so that the audience was very satisfied with their performance. After the show was over, Thongdi also get money. Lingling's father thanked Thongdi for the success of the show. The next day, it turns out that Thongdi left the Punkit in the village. Thongdi probably didn't want to put him in danger. In the next scene, we are introduced to a beautiful woman named Lemhyung. Lemhyung, who was about to return to his village at that time, was instead intercepted by a group of robbers. The people who were with Lemhyung were killed by the robbers. Where it turns out they are Wenchin troops. Then not long after, Thongdi, who happened to be crossing the forest, came to help. Until finally, Thongdi managed to defeat the gang of cruel robbers. As thanks, Lemhyung then gave a ring to Thongdi. After that, Thongdi continued her journey, and she arrived at another village. There, Thongdi found another school of Muay Thai martial arts. Thongdi humbly begs Master to be accepted as a disciple. At first, the teacher was reluctant to accept it. However, after seeing Thongdi's martial arts in action, the teacher was finally able to see his sincerity, so he was finally appointed as a new disciple. But Thongdi was very surprised when he saw that Punkit was already in the village. Turns out he was already a student there. Day after day passed. There, the Thongdi took advantage of the time to deepen his martial skills. One day, the teacher made an announcement. There was a fighting competition between Silat schools to be held soon. The teacher also appointed Thongdi to take part in the fight, because he saw that Thongdi had above-average fighting skills. Even the teacher teaches Thongdi a secret science that has never been taught to other students. Thongdi also started to train very tightly before the fight. The day of the fight begins. At the venue of the fight, Thongdi accidentally met the shepherd man who had defeated him at that time. The match started. It seemed that all the strongest fighters gathered here. A teacher from another Silat school who is arrogant once insulted the fighters from the Thongdi Silat school. But the Thongdi teacher tried to react calmly, so it was Thongdi's turn to act. With his martial arts skills, Thongdi can finally reverse the situation by defeating his opponent. Not only that, Thong also managed to embarrass his enemies by defeating their teacher. After the event was over, Thongdi said goodbye to the teacher and continued on his way to learn more martial arts techniques. On this trip, Thongdi and Punkit go with Lingling and a young man named Kogitushi, who wants to be great like Thongdi. Arriving at the third village, Thongdi and the others meet a drunken sword master. Thongdi, Lingling, Punkit and Kogitushi started studying with the old man and gave him several bottles of alcohol as payment. The four of them train very hard every day to master sword techniques and other weapons. Long story short, after undergoing the training, Thongdi and the others managed to master the skill of wielding a sword and received a weapon as a gift from the old man. While continuing on to another village through the forest, Thongdi and the others are suddenly spotted by Wenchen and Heeg, who just so happened to be passing through the forest. Heeg Lalu tried to shoot the Thongdi stealthily, but unfortunately the shot hit the Punkit. Thongdi and Kogitushi immediately put up a fight against Heeg's men. Not only that, Thong also managed to kill Heeg with his ox kick. While Wenchen ran away. Thongdi and the others then take the Punkit back to the village. An old man tells Thongdi that Punkat's gunshot wound is too bad, that Punkit may not live much longer. However, there is one way that can save Punkit, namely Thongdi must take Punkit to the opposite village, where there is someone who can treat Punkit wounds. Thongdi, Kogitushi and Lingling immediately went there on horseback. On the way, Thongdi's horse slipped. And finally, Thongdi was forced to shoulder Punkit. After a long journey, they finally arrived at the village. When there, Thongdi immediately asked the villagers where the healer's house was. However, the head of the village did not allow them to meet the healer, so Thongdi became angry and beat his men. When the village chief was about to be killed, a man stopped him. The man kindly agrees to take Thongdi and the others to the healer. After Punkit received treatment, Thongdi did not forget to thank the man. The man's name was Rung. A few weeks they kept waiting for Punkit to recover. Until one day suddenly Lemhyung came. Thongdi immediately took Lemhyung out for a walk while releasing his longing. There Lemhyung said that he works for the king, and 1 month later the king will hold an official match, namely a fighting match that is open to everyone. Thongdi didn't promise to come, considering she had to wait for Punkit to recover. A few weeks later Punkit recovered, so Thongdi was able to enter the fighting matches arranged by the king. Long story short, everyone had gathered in front of the competition gate, including Thongdi. They are all people who will be in the game. Suddenly Lemhyung came there and introduced his father, who would also take part in the match. Unexpectedly, it turns out that his father is a shepherd who once defeated Thongdi. Long story short, the match started. Some fighters did the match. The match was also witnessed directly by the king. Until on one occasion, Thong and Lim Hyung's father met to be his opponent. It turned out that Lim Hyung's father was the person the king really championed. The match was very fierce. It was seen that Thong was knocked down several times. But in the end, Thong managed to beat Lim Hyung's father. The king, who saw his champion lose, he immediately stopped the match. Then the king sent someone to fight Thong. It turns out that the person sent by the king was easily defeated by Thong. When the king wanted to give gifts to the winners, a group of troops suddenly entered the middle of the arena and attacked the king. This troop is led by Rung, who previously helped Thong find a healer to save Punkit. They then fight, but are stopped when Rung reveals to everyone that he is the real king. It turns out that the king who previously held this fighting competition was just a cheater who wanted to get a lot of money from betting bets. Not only that, it turns out that all of Thong's trips have been arranged by Rung. Starting from being defeated by herdsmen, until arriving in this village, Rung did everything because he was looking for a warlord. And Thong will be chosen because she has a kind and brave soul. But unfortunately, in planning that, Lieutenant Rung died at the hands of Thong, which is nothing but Heeg. After getting his throne back, it was Rung who appointed Thong as the warlord of the kingdom. Thong, Punkit, and Kogitushi Lalu joined the battle against the invaders. Where in that battle Thong's sword was broken. And that's where Thong became known as the hero of the broken sword. After winning the battle, Thong returns to his village with Lim Hyung to meet his mother, who has been waiting for Thong for a long time. And movie is over. Thank you for watching. Look forward to the next video.